Well, I'm Pascal Kerneis, the Managing Director of the European Services Forum, which is a lobby representing the interest of the private sector into international trade in services. And therefore, the Trade in Services Agreement, the TiSA, is of great interest to us. The trade in services is something which is not very well understood. The size of it is completely misunderstood. And now, usually it's considered as it's about 20% trade in services and 80% trade in goods, but that is about balance of payment figures. Now the OECD and the WTO have new figures on a new database calculating on the value added. And there we found out that actually the whole trade of the European Union is about services for 60%. Because you have a lot of services around the products in addition of the trade in services, which are banking, telecom, IT, tourism, travel, etc. All of that is services. And so trade in service is very important for the economy. The TiSA is an opportunity to try to move on international trade in services because the WTO has not delivered. We have got a Uruguay round first and only agreement in the World Trade Organization, where we have some commitments by some countries in the services sectors which are rather low. And the rules which have been written in the GATS, the General Agreement on Trade in Services, are completely outdated and didn't go really very far. We have tried to push for this agenda in the Doha round for 15 years, but this has never been taken seriously by the negotiators. And from memory, ministers have taken 5 hours in total in 10 years to discuss about trade in services. When I just mentioned that it's about 60% for the European Union, this is not acceptable. So when we had an opportunity to push for an alternative for an agreement for trade in services agreement, which is going to be on services only, we said this is what we want because it has been taken hostage so far by agriculture and goods, and therefore the manufacturing goods, etc., reduction of tariff, and they have not been able to find a solution on these things, and trade in services has never been really negotiated seriously. So having a trade in services agreement where services negotiators only would discuss and try to write new books, new rules of books, and possibly new commitment, that is something that the industry is very much interested on. So clearly, we want new market access among the countries which are around the table, but hopefully also making this agreement one day multilateral, because it is now a plurilateral agreement gathering around 70% of the world trade, which is already significant. But many countries, the emerging countries, are not at the negotiating table. So the BRICS, the ASEAN countries, which have high rate of growth, are not part of the negotiation and therefore are not tabling something. If we would bring the TiSA when we will achieve it, as it is of today, it would mean that if we give it to the WTO, China, Brazil, Russia, and the others will get our agreement for free without bringing anything on the table. So that is something, the reason why we have said no. This, as it is now, it needs to be plurilateral, not multilateral. But the vocation of this agreement is to become a multilateral. And in addition of the new market access, or at the very least, binding the existing practice, i.e. when a country has opened up its own country to foreign companies, that it is bound under the TiSA, that would be already a great achievement. But the other great achievement is going to be on the rules, the new disciplines in financial services, in telecom, in e-commerce, in what we call domestic regulation, so the regulators will respect some rules and will have some international standards. Transparency in the regulation, the way that the regulation is going to be written, it has to respect some minimum standards, to give possibility to the stakeholders to discuss and make some comments, to have the possibility of a right of appeal when the company has got a refusal for its license. All of these things are already part of most of the country's own what I would call good regulatory practices, and the idea is to put that also into the TiSA so that all the signature of this agreement will have the same standard. And that is something that we really much look forward. Thank you.